Hey everybody, hope and pray that you're doing well. Today as we come to our word from the word. And today that word is restoration. Restoration. If you're watching these daily, happy Thanksgiving. Pray that you enjoy your day. Spend some time thanking God for all the many blessings that he's bestowed upon you and your family. And it is definitely every day in the Christian life should be a day of thanksgiving. But today, it's still important that we spend time in God's Word as every day. What better way to spend Thanksgiving than spend some time in God's Word and in prayer? Now, here we're going to see restoration today from yesterday I was talking about Rehoboam. Today we're talking about Jeroboam. And you'll see, you need to read the whole context to understand exactly what's going on. But there is a man of God that comes to the king and tells him that, look, there's coming a couple hundred years from now, generations to come, where there's going to be a righteous king, and he's going to do away with all your man-made religion that you think you kind of set it up how you want it, but there's coming a man of God later who's going to set all things straight. Now, when he says this and he tells Jeroboam exactly what's going to happen, Jeroboam doesn't like what he hears. So today in 1 Kings chapter 13, we're just going to read verses 4 through 6. You see the response, and something happens to him, and then all of a sudden he wants to include God. So in verse 4, 1 Kings chapter 13, verse 4 says, "So it came to pass when King Jeroboam heard the saying of the man of God who cried out against the altar in Bethel, that he stretched out his hand from the altar, saying, 'Arrest him.' Then his hand, which he stretched out toward him, withered, so that he could not pull it back to himself. The altar also was split apart, and the ashes poured out from the altar, according to the sign which the man of God had given by the word of the Lord. Then the king answered and said to the man of God, 'Please entreat the favor of the Lord your God, and pray for me, that my hand may be restored to me.' So the man of God entreated the Lord, and the king's hand was restored to him and became as before." You have this great miraculous, he actually sees three miracles in all of this, and Jeroboam still will not turn back to God. And we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. But it's amazing that here, as he points out and says, "Arrest this man for speaking against me," is essentially what he was saying. That his hand is withered up to where he doesn't even have the strength to pull it back to his body, and it's as if he lost all control of that arm and that hand. And for it to be withered up in that moment, he knows that that's an act of God coming from the man of God. And then to see all this happen on the altar, he knows that's exactly what the man of God was just talking about. It was further proof. And so then he says, "Well, pray to the Lord. Will you pray for me that my hand will be restored? Now that I've seen this and I understand, would you please restore my hand?" And he prays, and his hand is restored. Now, you would think after that, Jeroboam would be like, "Okay, I need to quit doing what I'm doing, and I need to get back with the Lord." But the problem is, he doesn't do that. See, in our word restoration, right, his hand was restored. He was physically restored, but his heart was never changed. And today, being Thanksgiving, there's so many of us that have been physically restored time after time after time, but we refuse to be spiritually restored. We refuse to give it all to God. We refuse to acknowledge that it is him at work, that it's his word at work. His promises are what are coming true. His will is being done, and we refuse to accept it in our hearts. And we turn cold. And our hearts turn cold, and we lack the thanksgiving that we should be sharing and celebrating today. So today, I guess my question and my challenge for you is this: have you been physically restored? But most importantly, have you been spiritually restored? Have you ever thought about that maybe that physical restoration that you've experienced in your life, maybe a time of sickness where God healed you? Have you ever thought that maybe that was God trying to show you what he could do with your heart as well? See, that area, that little infirmity that maybe you've been fighting with for a long time, and then all of a sudden it was healed physically. That God is using that to show you that, yes, guess what? that little area of your heart, that area of bitterness, that area of unforgiveness, that area of whatever, you fill in the blank for what it is that you keep holding back and you don't want to turn over to God, that God is saying, look, just as I can physically restore you back to health, spiritually, if you will turn it over to me, he's saying, I can restore you spiritually as well. And I'm telling you, when you turn that over to God and he spiritually restores you, that is a day not only of restoration, but that is a day of great thanksgiving. God bless you, and I pray you have a great, great day.